What is going on, friends, and welcome to my NFL playoff prediction special. I want to thank you so much for joining us today. Normally, for the everyday listener that joins us on Outreach Radio Chicago or anything we do on the Mercado airwaves, it's a little different to go into the NFL and sports in general. I know if you follow me, you see that I do a lot of UFC interviews and MMA interviews with champions and superstars within that world of sports, along with celebrity interviews that we have down the pipeline. But what got me into radio originally was sports conversation. And I've been blessed to do everything with Outreach Radio Chicago and almost get away from sports when it comes to my profession. But it's always an itch that I have to scratch, and especially with the last few months, the Cubs winning the World Series and just the love I've had for sports radio has come back. And I feel very blessed that I get to do something like this. It's going to be very loose, very easy. I'm not going to sit here and be a talking head. I'm not going to tell you why whose run defense is better than the running offense of one team, the stats of Matt Ryan in this type of weather opposed to him in a dome, so on and so forth. This is just what I feel. This is just kind of what I think is heading into these playoffs, what will play out in my eyes. So what I also take a lot of enjoyment is listening to you guys and getting your opinion and seeing how far off we are from each other. So I'm everywhere in the universe. Follow me. I'm on Twitter at mmercado2333. You can like the radio show page on Facebook at Outreach Radio Chicago. Do us a huge favor. Subscribe to us on YouTube, YouTube/MikeMercado2333. And you can see all our cool past shows of Outreach Radio Chicago. And you can see the past interviews that we've done with UFC superstars and champions, along with celebrities. But for all those who are new to the show, we have something called a Patreon. You become a Patreon of this show, of all the things that we are doing outside of Outreach Radio Chicago. Just go to patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. We have two tiers. We have a tier to become just a Patreon, where you get all the stuff that we do outside of Outreach Radio Chicago earlier than anybody else. So that interview we had with former lightweight champion Eddie Alvarez, you get it first on Patreon. That interview we had with Mickey Gall before his huge win a few weeks ago, you can get it on Patreon first before anybody else. The huge celebrity interviews that we have in 2017, you will get first on patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves if you donate to the $3 tier, become a Patreon, and help support and power this show and each one of these interviews. And including powering, we have a new tier for anybody looking to power our interviews, or as it's called in the business, anybody wants to sponsor the interviews or shows that we are doing like this. We encourage you, please go to patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves, and we have a tier just for that. What comes with that is basically you will power each and every one of our interviews with UFC superstars, champions, and celebrities. We'll make sure you get a good read on the air and that everybody finds a way to get to your website, to get to your location, to get to your business. Whatever traffic we can send, we will do it for you guys. Just go to patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. And of course, we're on Instagram. Follow me at Instagram/MikeMercado2333. But let's get right to it. Now that the business is all out of the way, we are going to start off with the Saturday, January 7th matchups. The first one will be the Oakland Raiders versus the Houston Texans. Obviously, with Derek Carr being out, it's a totally different matchup than it would have been 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, I would have said Oakland might be one of the favorites to give New England a hard time to get to the Super Bowl. With the injury of what might become a star quarterback in Derek Carr, I still think Houston is not good enough to beat Oakland, though, even with that injury. I think Houston's a very much an up-and-down team with J.J. Watt being hurt. Brock Osweiler really not coming into his own as much as people thought with that contract he got. So if you're asking me right now, in my playoff bracket, I have the Oakland Raiders beating the Houston Texans to move on to the divisional round. And in the other Saturday matchup, it's the Detroit Lions versus the Seattle Seahawks. This is a weird matchup. If this were in Detroit, I would have gone with the Lions. And it makes all that much more important that Detroit completely gave that division to Green Bay, which I called for any of you who listen to anything I ever have to say or anything that I post. You saw that my Super Bowl prediction to start the season was New England and Green Bay. Spoiler alert, we might be getting that in this bracket. But I think Seattle's going to win this game. I think Detroit's been holding on with strings, bubblegum, and tape. Matthew Stafford's a good quarterback, but he's always ready to throw that interception, as we saw against the Packers. So I think handily the Seahawks are going to win in Seattle. Whether or not I have, the weather, you can always put that in a factor in the NFL, but I think in 2017, it's no longer the 40s where there's an ice bowl and things like that. Like the weather, everybody knows what weather to expect in any one of these stadiums. So taking that to the side, I think Seattle clearly beats the Detroit Lions to move on to the divisional round. And on the Sunday matchups, you have the Miami Dolphins versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. I really like the Pittsburgh Steelers. I really like that offense. I really like the fact that they have championship medal under them already as is, so they could run through these playoffs, and it wouldn't be too far off the beat of the Pittsburgh Steelers to win a couple road games to get into the Super Bowl. But in this case, they're hosting the Miami Dolphins, so I think just with that alone in Pittsburgh, Big Ben, Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, as healthy as they've been all season, I think it's a pretty safe bet that offense is going to put up points. And Miami has played some pretty decent defense, and it's some good play from so many different key players. But can they put it all together? Can Ajaje, I never know how to pronounce his name, if their running back could continue what he was doing? Who's going to get them the ball, though, with Tannehill being hurt? Again, this might be a different story if Tannehill was there, because Adam Gase has done a hell of a job in Miami. But I think it's safe to say if you're a betting man, put it on the Steelers, and the Steelers will, I think, are going to make a lot of noise into these playoffs. So with that in mind, we have the Packers beating the Giants, the Seahawks beating the Lions, the Raiders beating the Texans, and the Steelers beating the Dolphins. So in the NFL, obviously, the seeds change. It's not like a normal bracket, so the highest seed plays the lowest seed. So then in the divisional round, you're going to see matchups like the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Oh my God, what a game. And in that case, again, I don't trust Alex Smith. I know they have a beast in Hill in Kansas City. I know that they've been playing good football at times. But how do you compete against that offense in Pittsburgh? Now, it will be played in Kansas City if this matchup happens. But I think Pittsburgh's offense is just it's too much for Alex Smith to answer. Even if Kansas City's defense plays stellar defense like they have at points in the season, I think Pittsburgh is a clear winner. Pittsburgh will beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And in the other AFC divisional round matchup, the Oakland Raiders take on the New England Patriots. This was my favorite matchup when Carr was healthy for the Raiders. But without Carr, it's just too much to handle. These aren't the Texans. New England will win that game handily, creating in the AFC Championship game the New England Patriots versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Battle of the blue chippers. I mean, what else can you ask for? But on the NFC side, you have the Seattle Seahawks versus the Atlanta Falcons. Talk about two different mindsets of teams, one defensive-minded, one offensive-minded. I think this is the year Atlanta really surprises some teams. I like Atlanta's offense. I like the fact that they were able to have a two-headed running back system that has played off pretty decently for themselves. Matt Ryan has had himself an MVP season, even at times without having Julio Jones. So I think the Atlanta Falcons get through Seattle in a pretty tight game, but in Atlanta, no hindrance from the weather and no aid from the 12th man in Seattle. I think Atlanta beats Seattle to get to the NFC Championship game, which then brings us to probably the most polarizing matchup in my playoff bracket, the Green Bay Packers versus the Dallas Cowboys. What else can you ask for when it comes to the best quarterback in the NFL? In Aaron Rodgers. I know Tom Brady, long-term, Tom Brady historically will be better than Aaron Rodgers. That's nothing taken away from that. The best quarterback in the NFL right now is Aaron Rodgers, period. And this is coming from a Bears fan. He's the best quarterback in the NFL, period. Dallas has one of the best offensive lines in football, has a stud running back, stud receivers, and a good quarterback. A shaky defense. This one has maybe gone back and forth. It really has. Because I will tell you right now, spoiler alert, the winner of this game is going to the Super Bowl. One of these two teams will make it to the Super Bowl. I know a lot of people are like the Giants earlier on in the playoffs. I think without a shadow of a doubt, whoever comes out of Green Bay, Dallas will go to the Super Bowl. And because of that, I'm going with the experience. I'm going with the idea of the guy who's won it, the guy who's won MVPs. I'm going with the Packers to beat the Dallas Cowboys. And I like Dak Prescott. I like Ezekiel Elliott. I like Dez Bryant. I love that offensive line. But how can they go toe-to-toe with Aaron Rodgers? In Jerry World. Not in Lambeau Field, where, again, the weather's a hindrance. I know I said earlier that, everybody's kind of prepared for this weather. But I think it's the opposite when it comes to these enclosed stadiums. Because at that point, it's arena ball. And then there's nobody who plays better better street ball, arena ball, whatever you want to call it, than Aaron Rodgers. As a Bears fan, I've seen it year in and year out. So I think it's going to be a hell of a game, but I think the Packers are going to beat the Cowboys to advance to the NFC Championship game. And with that, we are in our conference championship games. On one side in the AFC, it is the New England Patriots versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, the 1 seed versus the 3 seed. And in the NFC, it is the number 4 seed Green Bay Packers versus the number 2 seed Atlanta Falcons. Wow. Before I get into who I pick, yeah, those are our championship games. Oh, it's going to be a beautiful championship Sunday. Oh, my God. And think about it. What's the unique thing about all this, right? Everybody always talks about what wins in the NFL. In my bracket, Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, Matt Ryan, Aaron Rodgers. Quarterbacks win in this league. Period. So because of that, in the AFC, in a nail-biter, the New England Patriots will get past the Pittsburgh Steelers. And in the NFC, the Green Bay Packers will get past the Atlanta Falcons. I think both games are going to be phenomenal. I think both games 34-31, the other one 27-24. Nail biters, classics, all to lead to Tom Brady versus Aaron Rodgers in the Super Bowl. New England Patriots of the AFC, the Green Bay Packers of the NFC. We have our matchup. We know the names. Tom Brady versus Aaron Rodgers. On paper, I think it's easy to see that the New England Patriots should probably win the Super Bowl. But every part of me is leaning towards the Packers. I think historically, Tom Brady is a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers. But the Packers are hot at the right time. They have a nice schedule to lead into the Super Bowl. And on top of that, they found the running back in Montgomery. They have the weapons in Cobb and Nelson. And of course, you have that dude, that man in Aaron Rodgers. He's a beast. He's the best quarterback in the league right now. So, with all that being said, I have the Green Bay Packers beating the New England Patriots 28-21 in the Super Bowl, February 5th on Fox. Thank you, guys. Let us know what you think of my bracket selection of the NFL playoffs. Follow me everywhere in the universe. I'm on Twitter at mmercado2333. Like the radio show page on Facebook at Outreach Radio Chicago. Do us a huge favor. Subscribe to us on YouTube. YouTube/MikeMercado2333. We're on Instagram. Follow us there as well. Mike Mercado 2333. Also, visit us on patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. And there you become one of our awesome patrons. For $3 a month, you will get every single interview that we do with UFC superstars, UFC champions, and celebrities, and shows like this before anybody else on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. Just go to patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves so you could become a patron right there. And if any of you know any local businesses or upstart companies that want any type of advertising or marketing, you can also visit us on patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves, and we have a tier there just for you. What comes with that tier is a very cool opportunity. You will be the sponsor who powers all of our interviews with UFC champions, superstars, and celebrities. We'll make sure you have a good commercial. We'll make sure you're in the beginning of the show and after the show, and we will do our best to make sure you get as much traffic as possible. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this NFL Playoff Prediction Show. Thank you so much. Please enjoy all the games. Enjoy your weekend, and we will see you next time.